Okay, so this problem says Scarlett sells apples and oranges at the local farmer's market. Originally, 3/7 of the fruit were red apples and the rest were oranges. A bit later, her brother added some green apples to the pile of fruit. After this change, 3/5 of the fruit were apples and the rest were oranges. What fraction of the apples were green apples? So to do this problem, we're going to make the important parts of the question distinct colors. We know what to put most of our focus on. Okay, second sentence will be yellow, and the fourth one will be blue, and we will refer to them as such. Now we can just read through the question. So of course we know Scarlett sells apples and oranges. To do this question, we're going to represent it visually, and we're going to make a table. We're going to start by figuring out the number of apples and the number of oranges we can put into the table, or how we're going to visually represent them. The yellow sentence says, originally 3/7 of the fruit were red apples and the rest were oranges. So if 3/7 of the fruit were red apples, that means the remaining 4/7 have to be oranges. We can put that into our table. Okay, so here's our table. Put the apples, and oranges, if you can see that properly. Yep, apparently can. So as mentioned in the yellow sentence, we know that apples take up 3/7 of the total number of fruit. So we're going to give 3 cells to the apples here. These apples are just red. So keep in mind, these are just the red apples. And we're going to give the remaining 4/7 to the oranges. I'll make the apple section red. The oranges will be orange. And there we go. We've finished with the yellow sentence. Now it says a bit later, Scarlett's brother added some green apples to the pile of fruit. Right, we've changed the total amount of fruits, and therefore the total amount of apples as well. And after this change, according to the blue sentence, 3/5 of the fruit were apples and the rest were oranges. So the number of red apples we have here, plus a certain amount of green apples, is going to be 3/5 of the total amount of fruit now. So if the apples take up 3/5 of the total number of fruit, the oranges would have to take up the remaining 2/5. So now we want to figure out what 1/5 is. So if the oranges take up 4 cells, and 4 cells is 2/5, 1/5 has to be 2 cells. There we go, now we have 1/5, 2/5. The oranges now take up 2/5. We want the apples to take up 3/5 of the total number of fruit. The apples should take up 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. That is how our table should look according to the blue sentence. Here's the thing, for apples to take up 3/5, we need to add a number of apples, because right now our apples don't take up 3/5, only 1/5 and another cell. So how do we get the apples to take up 3/5? Well, the remaining amount have to be the green apples, because we don't know how many there are, but we know that the red apples plus the green apples have to be 3/5. And for them to be 3/5, the 3 cells right here have to be our number of green apples. So we're going to fill in these 3 cells here, green, show that they are green apples. And there, now our table looks fine according to the blue sentence. Very nice table. Now the last bit of the question said, what fraction of the apples were green apples? So if the apples, as you can see, take up 6 cells of our table, this is our total number of apples. So what fraction of these apples are green? We can see 3 of the 6 cells are green apples, and 3 of the 6 cells are red apples. So the green apples take up 3/6 of the total number of apples. 3/6 is also 1/2. So we can write for a final answer, half of the apples are green. And there we go. That's our answer to this question. Okay, so now that we have our answer, we're actually going to check our answer. We know that Scarlett sells apples and oranges. We're just going to go through the entire question. So originally, 3/7 of the fruit were red apples. So originally, we don't have the green apples here. This is 3/7, so this is 4/7. Everything is in order. And now when her brother adds some green apples to the pile of fruit, you can see after this change, 3/5 of the fruit were apples. 2/5 were oranges. Okay, so we have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. And we can see that apples do take up 3/5. And oranges take up the remaining 2/5. So everything is in order for our blue sentence. And now we've also put our answer, which seems to also be in order, that half of the total number of apples are green. So now we've checked our work.